Money can vanish faster than a crop in a drought, and for John Deere, it just did. The farming giant has been hit with a massive $600 million blow, all thanks to the crushing new tariffs shaking the market. This isn't just another number on a balance sheet. It's a hit that could change the way tractors roll out across fields worldwide. What exactly happened to cause such a heavy loss? And more importantly, how will this shake up farmers, prices, and the future of agriculture? Something huge just shook one of the biggest names in farming equipment, and it's not about crops or weather. Just an hour ago, Deere & Company, the giant behind the famous green and yellow tractors, reported that tariffs have hit them harder than anyone expected. The damage? A staggering $600 million in costs for this year alone. That's not just a number. It's a storm that's been building for months, and now it's crashing down right on their books. But this isn't just about one company's bad day. It's about how global politics, trade wars, and farmers' struggles are colliding into one perfect storm. And it's changing the way farming works in America. The third quarter earnings report landed early this morning, and the mood in the stock market turned sour instantly. Deere's profits had dropped compared to last year. Shares slid a sharp 7% in the morning trade, the kind of drop that makes investors stop their coffee halfway to their sips. The big headline: Deere isn't just taking a hit from slower sales. They're getting slammed by tariffs and taxes on imported goods, and the hit is far worse than they predicted just a few months ago. Last quarter, they thought the total damage for the year would be $500 million. Now that number is up to $600 million. This wasn't a random surprise. The warning signs have been flashing for a while, but this morning's report made it official. The trade war is burning a hole in Deere's pocket. Tariffs sound like something only politicians and economists care about, but they hit real companies in very real ways. US President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs were designed to fix trade imbalances and bring more manufacturing jobs back to America. The idea was to make foreign goods more expensive so companies would buy more local products. But for companies like John Deere, which rely on imported steel, parts, and materials, tariffs mean their costs shoot up fast. It's like running a farm and suddenly finding out every seed, every tractor part, every bucket of fertilizer costs 20% more overnight. And these aren't costs they can just pass along to customers easily because farmers themselves are struggling. Even before tariffs became the big story, farm equipment makers were fighting slow demand. In North America, crop prices for wheat, corn, and soybeans have been low for a while. Farmers aren't making big profits, so they're thinking twice before spending on new machines. Many are choosing to rent tractors and harvesters instead of buying them outright. That's bad news for Deere, because renting means fewer sales and less revenue. When tariffs enter the picture, the pressure on the farming industry becomes even heavier. Farmers, already struggling with low crop prices, simply cannot afford the higher cost of new equipment. At the same time, Deere is unable to lower its prices because the tariffs have pushed up its own production expenses. This creates a squeeze from both ends, with farmers holding back on purchases and the company unable to ease the burden without hurting its own bottom line. The latest report revealed that in the third quarter alone, tariffs cost Deere nearly $200 million. That's just 3 months. And the worst part, the tariff policies aren't stable. They keep changing. 1 month the costs are predictable, the next they're not. Companies can't plan inventory or pricing properly when the rules keep shifting. That uncertainty is making farmers even more cautious. Jonathan Sakrida, an analyst at CFRA Research, put it bluntly. Tariff uncertainty and deflated commodity prices have made farmers increasingly cautious in spending decisions and more hesitant to accept higher machinery prices. Translation: farmers don't want to gamble on expensive new machines when the market and politics are this unstable. Despite all this trouble, Deere isn't just sitting back and watching the storm roll in. CEO John May said they've been managing inventory very carefully, making sure production matches retail demand so they don't end up with global stockpiles of unsold tractors. They've also been running cost-cutting measures to keep expenses under control. And surprisingly, despite the rough environment, they still managed to beat Wall Street's expectations for profit and revenue this quarter. That's kind of a small victory that keeps investors from completely jumping ship. Even with those efforts, the numbers from Deere's largest units, the ones making tractors, combines, and construction equipment, were grim. Operating profit for both units dropped by roughly half compared to last year. That's a massive blow. These are the divisions that keep Deere's engine running, and if they're struggling this much, it means the pressure is heavy across the board. Before today, Deere's forecast for the year was brighter. They had projected profits between $4.7 billion and $5.50 billion. Now they've lowered the high end to $5.25 billion. That's a subtle but telling move that shows they know things aren't getting easier anytime soon. They're still holding on to the hope of hitting the lower end, but it's clear the road ahead is rough. Deere's struggles aren't happening in isolation. According to Reuters' tariff tracker, global companies that reported between July 16th and August 8th estimated a combined tariff impact of $13.6 billion to $15.2 billion for the full year. That's a massive number. It means Deere is just one part of a much bigger story, a worldwide economic shift where tariffs are reshaping how companies operate, how they buy materials, and how they sell products.
I just noticed behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company. But as you know, they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States, so that if I win, John Deere is going to be paying a 200%.
President Trump has defended these tariffs from the start. He argues they're necessary to fix the U.S. trade imbalances and reverse the decline in manufacturing. He believes this will bring more jobs and investment back home. For some industries, that might eventually happen, but for companies like John Deere, which are deeply connected to global supply chains, the short-term impact is painful. They can't just switch to only American-made parts overnight. It's a slow and costly process. The latest figures show Deere's net income for the third quarter is at $1.29 billion or $4.75 per share, down from $1.73 billion or $6.29 per share a year earlier. While analysts has expected $4.63 per share, meaning the company performed slightly better than forecasts, net sales still dropped about 9% to $10.36 billion, just above the $10.31 billion estimate. On paper, the business is holding together, but the steady downward trend is hard to ignore. At first glance, this might seem like a farmer problem or a tractor company problem, but it's much bigger. Deere is a bellwether for the agriculture industry. If they're struggling, it's often a sign that the wider farming economy is also in trouble. When farmers pull back on spending, that affects seed companies, fertilizer suppliers, trucking businesses, and even rural communities that rely on farm income. And when tariffs raise costs for manufacturers, that can ripple into construction, mining, and other heavy industries. Deere's future rests on a few critical factors, starting with tariff policies, as easing restrictions could quickly lower costs while tighter measures would only deepen the strain. Commodity prices will also play a big role, since higher crop values would give farmers more spending power to invest in new equipment. At the same time, innovation could be key, with advancements in precision agriculture, automation, and electric machinery helping the company stay competitive. While Deere has weathered difficult times before, the current mix of trade tensions, weak crop prices, and hesitant customers presents an unusually tough challenge. That's all for today. The game in global trade is heating up fast, and what's coming next could shake things up even more. Last quarter, they thought the total damage for the year would be $500 million. Now that number is up to $600 million. This wasn't a random surprise. The warning signs have been flashing for a while, but this morning's report made it official. The trade war is burning a hole in Deere's pocket. Tariffs sound like something only politicians and economists care about, but they hit real companies in very real ways. US President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs were designed to fix trade imbalances and bring more manufacturing jobs back to America. The idea was to make foreign goods more expensive so companies would buy more local products. But for companies like John Deere, which rely on imported steel, parts, and materials, hit that subscribe button so you could never miss a twist. See you in the next one.